Good morning, YouTube and fellow students. My name is Library RPG Gamer, and this is a discussion about Looking for Alaska by John Green and its attempted banning at Depew High School in Buffalo, New York. To best understand the happenings at Depew High School over Looking for Alaska, we must first look at a timeline of events. This timeline is a summary of the articles within Buffalo News at the time in which Looking for Alaska was being debated. In March 2005, Looking for Alaska by John Green was first published by Dutton Juvenile, a division of Penguin Publishing. Upon its release, it was highly credited and received many awards. It also received lots of controversy. Then in early January of 2008, the Depew High School district sends a letter and permission slip home with students informing parents of the controversial content within Looking for Alaska. The letter explains that Green's book was meant to be an analogy and introduction to J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye as part of an 11th grade English coming-of-age curriculum. Then on January 15, 2008, at a regularly scheduled Depew High School board meeting, a concerned parent speaks up out of turn and questions the appropriateness of Looking for Alaska, stating that its pornographic nature is not appropriate for their students. Now somehow John Green heard about the controversy concerning his book at Depew and created a video entitled I Am Not a Pornographer, in which he defends himself and the content within Looking for Alaska. During this time, he and many other organizations send letters to the school board for or against the incorporation of Looking for Alaska within the school's curriculum. On February 5th, 2008, Depew has its regularly scheduled board meeting with Looking for Alaska on the agenda. Thanks to John Green's video, this meeting drew over 200 people. Everyone there came to voice their opinions and watch as complaint transformed into controversy. Then in February of 2008, it was reported by the Buffalo News that the Depew High School District would form a 7-member committee which would review the evidence and report their finding to the board in March. Finally, on March 4th, the community voted unanimously to keep Looking for Alaska within the curriculum. The conflict at Depew High School had come to an end and intellectual freedom had won the day. What is Looking for Alaska all about then? What's in it that creates all this controversy? Looking for Alaska is the wonderful story of a 14-year-old boy named Miles, aka Pudge, who is absolutely obsessed with famous people's last words. This obsession takes him on a journey which he calls the Great Perhaps. His search for the Great Perhaps leads Miles to an Alabama boarding school where he meets a young, intelligent, and quirky girl named Alaska. The book is written in 2 parts, before and after. In the before, Miles befriends Alaska, and he follows her and their friends into doing pranks, creating mischief, and breaking all the school rules. He also has a liking to Alaska, and follows her as he tries to befriend her and make that friendship hopefully into something more. In between the before and after, Alaska dies in a horrible car accident. In the after, Miles searches to make sense of his grief after Alaska's death, trying to answer the how, and importantly the why questions associated with the loss of a friend, a teen, and what he considers to be love. John Green summarized in his novel stating, Alaska is about the loss and forgiveness and guilt. It is about the radical injustice of suffering and the question of whether sustaining hope can be found in the face of suffering. End quote. Looking for Alaska also received outstanding reviews. Library Journal listed it among the best books of 2005. School Library Journal stated that Alaska belongs in all collections for older young adults. Kirkus reviewed it as a book where girls will cry and boys will find lust, love, and longing in Alaska's cigarette and vanilla scent. Looking for Alaska is a book that has also won several awards. In 2006, it won the Michael L. Prince Award for Excellence from YALSA. John Green also won 8 additional awards for his book. He won the 2006 Top 10 Books for Young Adults. He also won the 2006 Teens Top 10 Awards. He won the 2006 Quick Pick for Reluctant Young Adult Readers. He also won the New York Public Library's Book of the Teen Age Award. He won Book Lists, Editor's Choice, Barnes & Noble Discover Great Writers Award Selection, and the Borders Original Voices Selection. 9 awards in 1 year! All the awesomeness surrounding Looking for Alaska, what could a few parents at Depew High School have against it? Well, there were 4 things. Drug use, alcohol, cursing, and what they called pornographic material. First up is drug use. All the characters smoke cigarettes, and they're all underage. Point number 2 is alcohol. There are plenty of scenes in Looking for Alaska where all the main characters are drinking. Alaska herself buries strawberry wine underground in the forest near the school. And the Colonel, who is Pudge's roommate and friend, has this disgusting concoction of milk and vodka. He calls it ambrosia. It is no secret that the characters in Looking for Alaska are not ignorant of a more colorful English language. One parent asked the board at one of these meetings, "Would you read this book aloud at this board meeting?" Another parent pointed out that the school manual banned such language and that a book that contained this language would not be appropriate for an English class at Depew High School. However, the best argument against inappropriate language in Looking for Alaska is from safelibraries.org. Safelibraries.org, by the way, is very much against the American Library Association and very much for tighter control over public libraries and what they can introduce to children. The website did a non-scientific study in which they counted the number of curse words in the book Looking for Alaska. They found that it contained 281 curse words in 216 pages, yielding 1.3 curses per page. However, the pinnacle of the pyramid, the cream of the crop, point number 4, is that there is pornographic material within Looking for Alaska. Miles is a 14-year-old boy, and like any other 14-year-old boys, he thinks about sex. Additionally, the reader is a witness to every single thought that Miles has. Occasionally, he counts the number of layers of clothing between him and sex. However, most of the complaints about sexual content and the label of pornography come into play in one scene where Miles is given oral sex by his girlfriend. One parent was quoted as saying, in response to the sexual content, "What's next? Free condoms and unisex showers in our schools?" A local Baptist minister even claimed that a doctor doesn't have to have cancer to treat someone who has, when he urged fellow community members to take a stand against the alleged pornographic material. As one can imagine, John Green, who is a young adult author and writes books especially for that age, was very angry when he was labeled as giving pornography to that age group. Therefore, he was the first to respond with his video entitled, "I Am Not a Pornographer." In his video, he argues, and I quote, "The sex scenes are awkward, unfun, disastrous, and wholly inerotic," unquote. And these scenes were included to contrast with the more satisfying non-physical experiences of the characters. John Green says that his book argues that physical intimacy cannot stand in for emotional closeness, and that this is the paramount theme within the book. However, his main point and primary message to those who contradict his book are to not underestimate the ability of teens to understand and evaluate literature. John Green finally states that parents are fully capable of determining what their own children can and cannot do. After the meetings, Buffalo News interviewed some of the high school students, and one of them said that these things within Looking for Alaska are something that every high school student experiences. The board president of Depew High School was even interviewed by Buffalo News, and he was quoted as saying that he has read the book cover to cover and that he approves of his 11th grade daughter reading it in class. Another parent told Buffalo News that Looking for Alaska was the best book that they had ever read. The letter was also sent by the National Coalition Against Censorship, and they argued that the sexual content and language represented in Looking for Alaska were small but essential parts of the novel. The organization supported the board forming committee, and, like Green, they argued, and I quote, "No matter how well-intended, parents are not equipped to make decisions for other parents." However, the deciding factor of whether or not Looking for Alaska would remain within the school curriculum was simply dependent upon the fact of the school permission slips that were sent out at the beginning of the year. By the time of the final meeting, 140 of the 160 permission slips had been returned, and only 3 of these had come back stating that they did not want their child to read Looking for Alaska. Therefore, the community argued that because they sent out the permission slips and the parents had already made the decision, their decision had already also been made, and the permission slips ended up being the deciding factor. Therefore, the 6 committee members voted unanimously to keep Looking for Alaska within the curriculum. The fact of the matter remains, Looking for Alaska is not the first book, nor will it be the last to be contested in this manner. And despite the confrontation at Depew High School, Looking for Alaska has been successfully taught in schools around the United States without controversy. Now, when the book first came out in 2005, Paramount Pictures bought the movie rights to the movie Looking for Alaska. Now, it was unclear when the film will be released, but one thing is for certain. When it does, this controversy will spark up again. So in the end, this controversy at Depew High School over Looking for Alaska is just one instance out of many which may involve Looking for Alaska in the near future.